Hello, party people, and welcome to Real Deal, the weekly entertainment news show hosted by me, the quasi-good-looking Andrew Fantasia. As always, if you enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. So what happened this week in entertainment news? Well, we got a bunch of new trailers to start off with. The first one I want to talk about is the Predator trailer. This one snuck up on me. I'm not gonna lie. This movie has been kind of under the radar to begin with. I mean, we've been hearing about it for a long time, but it's been all quiet on the Predator front for a while. You haven't really heard much about this. When I was sitting in the theater for Deadpool 2 and this trailer came up, it really gave me a pleasant jolt of surprise because, for starters, this does not open the way you think a Predator trailer would open. It doesn't look like Predator at all. It looks like a mix between, Stranger Things and Flight of the Navigator. I know I'm watching all these kids and they're walking around and it's Halloween, and then a kid opens a box and there's a spaceship part in it for some reason, and he's like, ooh, spaceships. And then you see a real spaceship and it does kind of look like the one from Flight of the Navigator. So for a minute I was actually like, holy shit, are they remaking Flight of the Navigator? And then you start to see the more adult stuff happening and some fighting, and you get a glimpse of some of the cast members, and there's that quirky Shane Black humor. It's in there. You can see it. You can see it kind of trickling through the cracks of the trailer. It's very vague, but if you know to look for it, it's there. Particularly with the little quick glimpse we got of Sterling K. Brown's character. Then we see the Predator. And he's all with the dreads and the mask, and he's got the glaive thing, and he's shooting stuff from his wrist, and I'm like, there it is. It's Predator. Here we go. And this looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it is combining the savage combat from the remake they made about 8 or 9 years ago with the more sort of colorful, I don't want to say wacky, but more character-driven, fun aspects of the first two. So this is giving us the best of both worlds, I think, and I like that. The trailer caught me by surprise. Like I said, I was not expecting it, and even while I was watching it, I was not expecting it. It really snuck up on you that this was a Predator trailer, and I love when trailers do that. I love when they play with your expectations, especially if, this isn't like a Star Wars movie where they make a big deal about a trailer coming out, where they're like, tomorrow, set your watch, we're going to drop the trailer for the new Star Wars in 45 minutes. This just came out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, what's this? What's this? Oh, it's that thing you heard about once. Here you go. I remember being a little kid, and I got the same reaction for the trailer for that movie, Small Soldiers. Remember that movie? It started off looking like you were watching some Area 51 thing, and the camera pans through this big government lab, and it looks all spooky and stuff, and you're like, what is happening? And then they just show Major Chip Hazard in the box, and he just kind of punches his way out, and I'm like, oh, it's that Small Soldiers thing. This kind of gave me that same feeling, and I don't think I've had that feeling in a very, very long time, maybe even since Small Soldiers. So the Predator trailer, I love what it did. I love how coy it was about itself, and it just made me all the more excited to see what Shane Black brings to the intergalactic bounty hunter / warrior / Predator table. What are they again? It's been a while. I gotta catch up on my Predator lore. And the next trailer we got was for the Happytime murders. Now, this is another movie that I've heard about a while back, and I've been really excited for. But it's been under the radar, and I'm okay with that. I'm like, let it slowly come out at its own pace. Let it do its thing. And when I saw that they were finally showing the trailer the other day, I got really pumped, and I was like, yes, I want to see what this is all about. Now, like I said, I've been very excited for this movie until I saw the trailer. This is not a good trailer. It's not. It is trying too hard to sell the fact that puppets are being raunchy. And that is a funny thing, yes. It is a funny thing, but it shouldn't be all the movie has to offer. And if it's all the movie has to offer, we're in for a disappointing ride. The fact of the matter is, puppets being raunchy is not a new concept. There are things called Avenue Q and Team America. These things both exist. So we can't make this movie and be like, how are we going to sell it? Let's show a puppet saying the F word a lot. And yes, it's funny to see a very Jim Henson looking puppet doing and saying these things, but that can't be the whole joke. And as far as this trailer was concerned, that was the whole joke. It was literally just Melissa McCarthy interacting with a variety of different puppets. The puppets all look fantastic, though. Don't get me wrong. She's just interacting with all these puppets, and in every scene, it's just them doing some adult thing. Hey, let's do puppet crack. Hey, let's have puppet sex. Hey, I'm a homeless puppet who will suck your penis for money. Blah, blah, blah. Swear, swear, swear. And I'm like, we get it. We get that they're puppets who are R-rated. We understand. If all you're going to do is keep reminding us of that fact, you're not making a good movie. You're not writing a good script. And you're not giving us an entertaining trailer. This trailer was about 2.5 minutes in length, I think. And out of that length, there was about 5 seconds that had to do with plot. Where it's just like somebody says, someone's been killing puppets. That's it. That's the plot. There's people or someone's going around murdering puppets. But the rest of what they showed us just focused on, hey, this puppet is doing cocaine, and this one is sleeping with a prostitute. Look how funny we are. All this trailer tells me is that this movie has no plot. Because if it had a plot that was interesting, they'd be trying to sell that. But they're not. The plot was like background noise. The plot was fine print. And fine print is, its exact purpose is it's small because you don't want the customer to see it. And when the plot is fine print, when the plot of a film is fine print, that's never a good sign. This tells me that they're trying to distract us from a lack of plot and a lack of imagination and a lack of creativity by just saying, look at this puppet having sex with another puppet. Isn't that fun? And yeah, it's funny, and that would be a funny, like, 2-minute college humor sketch, maybe, but not a major Hollywood motion picture. I'm still interested in seeing the movie, but way less than I was before because I did not see faith in the product being sold to me by the people who made the product. And that's a big red flag. I hope your movie was better than your trailer, because what I saw in that trailer just felt wrong. Get it? Felt. Because they're puppets. Remember when I was talking about how cool it would be to see Kraven the Hunter as the next villain in Spider-Man? Well, it turns out I was wrong. Now, if you would have asked me who I thought the last villain they ever would pick to be in a Spider-Man movie is, I would have guessed Mysterio. And guess what? I still would have been wrong. Because it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, we have our next villain for the next Spider-Man movie, and it is, in fact, Mysterio. And he's going to be played by none other than everybody's favorite Maggie Gyllenhaal sibling, Jake Gyllenhaal. This guy. This is so fascinating to me. Like I said, Mysterio was the last person I ever would have expected in a movie. He's so bizarre, and he's so utterly of his time. He's so 60s, the way he looks and everything. He's very cool looking. I like the way he looks. But I understand completely that this is a costume that would require a lot of tweaking to be taken seriously in the motion picture. Plus his powers of just throwing illusions around. I just thought it was, overall, it would have been a weak foe for Spidey to face off against in a big budget movie. Well, it turns out somebody found a way to make it work because he's going to be in it. They've said that this is going to be an international story and Spider-Man's going to travel to London among possibly other places, and that the villain ties into this whole idea, which was what originally made me think of Kraven. So with this being the new case then, it makes me wonder what Mysterio has to do with places like London and other parts around the world. What is his plot? What is he trying to do? This gets me very excited. I'm also very excited to see how the hell this mother effer is going to look on the big screen. The fishbowl thing, I love. The 2 eyes on the chest and the purple cape and the green, I love. I love all of it. I love Mysterio. But how this works on camera, I can't wait to see. I have never been more excited to see a comic book costume reimagined for the big screen. Never. In all my years of watching superhero movies, I have never been so excited to see how a person is going to look. And Jake Gyllenhaal, to me, when I picture him as Mysterio, I keep conjuring up images of how he was in the movie Nightcrawler. And if you've not seen Nightcrawler, take it from me and watch Nightcrawler. That is a fantastic little neo-noir graffiti kind of movie. Graffiti is like a term that I use to describe certain movies. I shouldn't have used it here because you have no idea what I mean when I say graffiti. I'll make a video about that one day. It's like a personal term I have for certain movies. But it's this very cool movie that kind of slipped under the radar, but luckily it got the praise it deserved. And Jake Gyllenhaal was psychotic in it. And to think of that character from that movie, putting on a fishbowl and like an elegant costume and doing illusions and stuff, this is really interesting. Now, the way I see this working is Quentin Beck, who is the guy under the mask of Mysterio. That's the character's alter ego. I would imagine they'd make Quentin Beck kind of like a Chris Angel mind freak kind of character. He is, this very world-famous illusionist. He's the kind of guy who could just go like this and there's fire in his hands kind of thing. And he's very, very good. And he puts that skill to use committing crimes, whether he's robbing people or maybe even doing something more sinister, like maybe he's upgrading to murder and espionage. I think you could take that kind of character and put him in a million different situations and find something cool to work with it. And maybe the internationalness of it all has to do with the fact that he is a world-famous illusionist. So he's touring. He's on tour in London and he's got a show in London, and then he comes to New York and he's got a show in New York. I can really get behind that, and I can totally picture Gyllenhaal being this douchebag Chris Angel guy who's like, I never reveal my secrets. So I am on board, Marvel. I am so stoked for this. I can't wait to see Jake in this role. I can't wait to see what he looks like. I want an action figure of this guy today. Let's get Mysterio into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you know what? To celebrate this announcement, I am going to perform a stupid, crazy card magic trick for you right here on camera, because why not? Here is a totally normal deck of playing cards. See? Now watch as I turn this whole deck into nothing but the 3 of clubs. Mysterio. Are you excited for the X-Men Dark Phoenix movie? So am I. So are a whole bunch of other people who like X-Men. Well, it looks like it may have gotten a title change to go with that little time delay that they gave it. All the X-Men movies up to this point have kind of worked under the same pretense. At least the main core ones about the team. They are just called X-Men blank. We had X-Men, X2, X-Men United, X-Men 3 The Last Stand, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse. Well, we all were under the assumption, including myself, that this next movie was going to be called X-Men Dark Phoenix. Turns out we may be wrong. It looks like the title has been changed to now just simply Dark Phoenix. Except the X at the end of Phoenix is very big because X-Men. Da-na-na-na-na-na. What does this mean? Probably nothing. Probably just that they wanted it to not say X-Men. I don't know. Apparently there's rumors that Fox is going to do a total reboot of the series in about 2 years anyway, a complete reboot. I guess that's okay. I mean, we've had a pretty good run with this group of mutants. I don't know what a reboot could do except bring back the classic originals like Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, and Professor X and Beast, and have them as a team. I guess I'd be okay with that reboot, but I really love this whole group that we have been playing around with for the past 20 years. If this is truly the end of that story, if Dark Phoenix is the be-all, end-all of the X-Men saga as we know it, I guess I'm okay with it. But see, that's the thing, is that the saga has no continuity to begin with, because how can Sansa Stark turn into Dark Phoenix when Xenia Onatopp already kind of did it in a slightly less appealing way back in 2004. So I have no idea. I don't know how this is going to work, how this reboot, rebranding is going to take shape. I'm excited for this Dark Phoenix movie. I'm excited to close the book on these characters. I hope there's at least one more movie with this new Jean Grey and this new Cyclops and everything, because I like them. We didn't get a whole lot of them in Apocalypse, and I just want to see more of those characters so that they can grow and develop. But until we get Dark Phoenix next February, I think we can only speculate on what the X-Men cinematic universe or its upcoming reboot could have in store for us. Remember, according to Futurama, there's supposed to be 27 X-Men movies by the year 3000, so we need to make that happen. Get on that, Fox. And finally, are you a fan of the classic board game where a bunch of people named after colors go into various rooms of a mansion and accuse one another of homicide? Me too. But are you a fan of the classic 80s comedy film based off the classic board game where a bunch of people with colors for names walk into different rooms of a mansion and accuse one another of homicide? Not a lot of people love that movie. Personally, I think it's kind of fun and it's a guilty pleasure, but for me, the Clue movie represents just a time when bad puns and dad jokes kind of dominated the comedy market. I'm looking at you, Mel Brooks. This was a movie full of a lot of jokes, but those jokes got more groans and eye rolls than they did actual laughs. Well, it looks like we're getting a remake of the Clue movie in the near future, but this one might actually bring the funny. It was announced a little while back that Ryan Reynolds was going to be involved in the Clue remake, as well as the team behind Deadpool 2, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. These guys are forming this sort of tag team group to write and direct an act in the Clue movie. And it has just been announced that Reese and Wernick really, really want this Clue movie to be rated R. That's right, we're looking at a potential hard R comedy for Clue, somewhere in the veins of something like the 21 Jump Street movie, which I think is very exciting. And here's why. Those guys took a premise like 21 Jump Street, the TV show, which was very cheesy and took itself way too seriously and wasn't really all that strong of a story to begin with. And they just had fun poking fun at it. And what we got was a 21 Jump Street movie that was delightfully funny, not afraid to take shots at its source material, but it wasn't just an overall parody. It wasn't Mel Brooks. It actually had some sort of depth and some heart to it, and it carried on a story and made us care about the characters in it. The original Clue movie was just a wacky parody. Clue, the board game, is not really serious, but it's, a light story about a bunch of people who may or may not be murderers in a mansion, and the movie took that and made it like a full-out comedy of errors. It was essentially a farce, but it was a very parody-heavy farce. And I think that the same logic could apply here. You could take that 21 Jump Street logic and you could turn it into a very funny comedy that's not afraid to poke fun at itself every now and then, and you get the right cast behind it. Those 6 characters could be phenomenal. And there's even rumors that this is not going to take place all in a mansion, but it's going to be more of an international mystery with franchise potential. That makes me very excited. Now, I actually own more Clue paraphernalia than I do the actual board game itself. Obviously, I'm kind of a fan of the original movie, despite all its really unfunny parts. It still charmed me. It still made me laugh enough to enjoy it. But the prospect of getting this story with more laughs really thrills me. This is a fun fact that you probably never wanted to know. But back in the 90s, they actually had Clue merchandise everywhere. It kind of peaked back then. But an author by the name of A.E. Parker came out with these old books. And I remember reading these way too much. And they were just like little mini mysteries inside these books. Like every book had like 10 short stories. And at the end there was a mystery, a question, and you, the reader, had to figure it out based on the clues. And they were always very simple, but still somehow I would manage to get them wrong as a kid. And what was cool about these is that they would always sort of change the cast around. So as you can see here on the back, they have all 6 of the main Clue characters, but they change it up and they make them a little different, which was always neat. Like, for example, here's Miss Scarlet, okay? This is in book 2. That's how Miss Scarlet looks. And then in book 9, they changed her so she's Asian. So it was really cool. They would just kind of change things up, and a new artist would come on and be like, I'm going to make Professor Plum a black guy now. And it was like, oh, neat. So there was always like little switch-ups to these characters, and they were always slightly different. It was like watching a movie series where they kept changing actors, but their personality stayed the same. So it was kind of like the best of both worlds. And I used to have a lot of fun with these books. But, of course, they are about as cheesy as this. So the prospect of getting a hard R-rated Clue story that will bring the funny, but also kickstart something potentially kind of badass, I'm on board with that prospect. I cannot wait for Hollywood to get a Clue. Boy, I've been waiting a long time to say that. And that has been Real Deal. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Andrew Fantasia. I'll see you here next time. Until then, adios. The solution to this mystery was that it was Professor Plum with the wrench. Mrs. White and Miss Scarlet were eliminated as suspects because they came in after Body has changed places with the wax figure. Green is eliminated because he was hit over the head with the wrench by Peacock. His books are full of attempted murder and everybody just kind of gets away with a slap on the wrist. There's some social commentary in there somewhere.